Okay, hello and welcome to the Community Legal Centres Australia class training session for reports today. I'm Samuel Martin from the CLC's Australia ICT team, and also with us today is James Oakerby, who will be facilitating, and we also have Alex Ariti with us as well. We'll begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet and recognise that this was and always will be Indigenous land. I'm coming to you today from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. If you would like to, put your the lands of the people that you are coming to us from today in the chat function, we always appreciate seeing that. And we will pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Okay, so just a quick overview of the session today. We're running through reports, the reports that we have in class. So this is mainly for class admins and more experienced users of class. I hope you can see my screen there. If so, you can see that I've already clicked on reports. Here we've got reports and accountability. I'll just click on reports there. And I'm also going to drop my webcam right now, just so that you guys can see my screen a little bit more. I'll also just mention for those who may not be aware that this is the Community Legal Centres Australia instance of class. So we don't have any actual clients, so none of the data you're seeing today is confidential client information. It's all dummy data. Okay, so when you load reports, this is usually what you get. So today we're going to be going through three main areas of reports: the standard reports, the drill down reports, and the DIY reports. Now, when I open the list of reports right here, down in the bottom, this tells me there's 2 pages and 64 items, which means 64 different reports, which is a lot. No one needs to know that many. You don't need to know them all. If you understand how the 3 individual types of reports work, that should work for you. And you also may not have that many. You may not have all of the reports. If you want to have more reports available to you, you would need to contact your class administrator at your centre to have your role adjusted, to be able to see more reports. Is how you get more of the reports. Okay, so we have a bit of a naming convention for these reports. So the reports, the names of the reports usually start with a letter, and then they have a number, and then there's something, a bit of a descriptor of what the report is and what it does. So as we can see, this one is C01. And we've got all the C reports. We've got the D reports, M. We've got N. The S reports, and we've got a couple of, I think there's actually only one P report, and then we've got the DIY reports, which we will get back to later. So there's a little bit of a trick with this. So there are 2 of the standard reports that are the most commonly used of the standard reports. And there's a little bit of a trick to identifying which ones those are. So here we've got the C03 report, and we made this report the one that is most likely to be used because C is the 3rd letter of the alphabet, so that's kind of nice and easy to remember. C03, and then the other one is the S01 report. And S is just, it's way down the bottom of the, well, more towards the middle of the alphabet. So we just decided to make this one S01. So those are the 2 reports to remember, the C03 and the S01. Just give me a moment, just checking my notes. Okay, so the C reports are all of the client reports. So the C reports give you data for client counts, the D reports. These are not really available yet. I don't know if these are working yet or not, potentially not. We won't be looking at the D reports in much detail today. The M reports are management reports. This is mostly for accountability. Again, we won't be going through these in much detail today either. These reports we created for the state program managers. And when we did that, we gave access to all of these reports to everyone. All the centres got these reports because we felt that you guys shouldn't. That we felt that the SPM shouldn't have access to anything that you guys don't have access to. So the M reports are in there, and you're welcome to look at them if you like. We're not going to spend too much time on this today, as I was saying. The N reports are the NPA, which is now NLAP reports. And then there's this 1P report. I don't know if we will look at that one in much detail today. That's just the top 20 problem types. And then the only other one are the DIY reports. Okay, so if anyone's got any questions today, feel free to ask them at any time you like. You can pop them into the chat function of this call, and we will do our best to answer those on the fly. I might have the facilitator direct some of those reports to me at some time through this training session. And if there are any questions now, I'm happy to take those. Otherwise, we will start on standard reports.
Yeah, Samuel, we do have one question that you've done more of these. You might have the answer to, and I don't. The session's being recorded. Do we make the recordings available after the session?
Thanks for that question, whoever asked that. You just reminded me that I was going to speak about that and I forgot to, so thanks for the reminder. I'm thinking that maybe this dull, dreary weather that we've been having in Sydney for the last few days is maybe getting to me a little bit, so I will do my best today. Yes, we are recording this session. I was going to say if there are any requests to put this recording on our website, we absolutely will do that. So we will attempt to get that video up onto our website by the end of the week. If you did want to shoot us a message so that you know when that has been posted to the website, you could send an email to the help desk, and we'll just let you know once we've gotten that live on the website, which does take a few hours. What else was I going to say? That's what I was going to say. I will be showing people how to get help from the help desk later, pretty much towards the end of this session. Thanks again for that question. Any others?
That's pretty much it for now.
Great. Okay. All right, let's dive into the standard reports, and I will take you through both of the ones that I just mentioned, the most common of the client reports and then the most common of the service reports. So I'll start with the client reports, C03. If we just click on here, this opens this report for us. And this is a fairly powerful kind of a report. We can do a lot with this standard report. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll show you exactly how to use this report. So when we open this, what we see, and this is very familiar. This is very common for most of the reports. This kind of layout. Let me just get rid of that. There we go. That's just a little bit bigger now. Anyway, so for pretty much all of the reports, we get the filter panel over this side here, and then the report will load here. Just for anyone who wasn't aware, who may be looking at reports for the first time. So in the filter panel, we have some required information that we need to fill out. Once we've done that, we hit our load report button. So the reports do require a date range. So if you want to run a report for a certain financial year, for a 6-month period or a 3-month period, a single month, you can do. If you do need to, or if you do want to, excuse me, run a report on all the data that your center has ever collected that may be possible, you would set this start date to something like 01/01, hang on, 1970. That should pretty much get everything that your center has ever done. And that's also one of the ways that you can enter a date into these fields. You can simply type it in, but we do have these date selectors. So instead of that, I'm just going to choose the date from, I'm selecting today's date from last year. So I'll run this on a year's worth of data, and here we've got this today button. You can click that if today is the end date that you want, or even the start date. If you want to run a report on a single date, you could do that. So that's available for you. And then funding categories, you click this little arrow here. That's a triangle is what it is, to open this list of funding categories. And so you can run reports on a single funding category, something like your generalist funding category. The way to select all the funding categories to get all the data from all of the different funding categories is to tick this box beside name. If you tick that, that will select all of the funding categories. We wait for that to load. Once it's done that, we just click anywhere outside of there to remove that box. Okay, so once we've done all of that, we can simply hit load report. So this report is giving us client counts for the previous 12 months. Now, when this loads, this is usually a little bit small. Up here, we've got a bunch of buttons, and we'll go through a few of these. Actually, we may as well do that right now. So this will be the number of pages. We've got 1 of 1 because this report doesn't give us a whole lot of data. We will see more data in this report a little bit later. If you do want to, if you do have more pages and you want to skip through them, there's a couple of ways to do it there. You can select from there, or you can click next and click to the last page of the document. You can toggle multi-page mode if you like. The way to make this page bigger so that we can see it is to click here. You can use the plus or minus buttons. Personally, I usually just click there and select one of these options. 100% usually works okay for me, and here's our report, nice and large, and we can see what the report has for us. So we've got the name of the report there and the filters that we've used. Here's the date range that we entered, the funding categories, that's all of them. The catchment, we'll come back to that in a bit, and the centers, that's just the one centers there. Here are the demographics, these are all set to any. We'll come back to that in a minute. And here are our numbers. Actually, I will make that a little bit bigger because it's not, it's a little bit small. Okay, so here are our numbers. So for the previous 12 months, we're saying we had a total of 92 clients. So that is unique clients. So for each individual, they'll be counted there once. So there's 92 of them. So even if any of those clients had multiple services, they're only counted in here once. Another thing with these reports is that these services are only counted when a service is closed. That's because our funding bodies, our state and federal funding bodies mostly aren't interested in how many services are currently ongoing. They want to know how many services have been delivered, which means that we only count services once they're closed. So things like informations and referrals are not counted in a report like this. This is only for services that have been closed. Okay. So then we get all of our other demographics in here, gender demographics, This is one of the ones that's quite important, people experiencing financial disadvantage. Then we get income. I'll scroll across so we can see the rest of them just quickly. So these are these demographics, relationship demographics, disability, Indigenous, ATSI status, culturally and linguistically diverse peoples, DV, triple R, and homelessness indicator. So this is how these reports work, and these are all the numbers that we get for these sorts of demographics. Just one little interesting thing on something like the age ranges. So if there was someone who was 17 who had received a service at some time through this date range, being in the last 12 months, that will be counted in here in this 0 to 17 age range. If that person then received another service, so they received a legal advice while they were 17, then they had a birthday, turned 18, and received another legal advice, they'll also be counted in this age range as well. Okay, so just give me a moment. Okay, so what I'll take you through now is some of the more powerful things that we can do with this report. So we have this button here, the catchment button, and we can aggregate this report by a number of different ways, by the office locations, by outreach. So instead of having the numbers for the entire centre, we can get the numbers specifically just for an outreach location, a specific office location, or we can aggregate the data for where our clients live. So this will tell us how many clients we've had within a particular administrative boundary, and there are several different administrative boundary types. So you can find them by suburb, you can find them by postcodes. Then we've got SA 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those are the statistical areas, which I believe come from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. And then we've got your local government areas, state electoral division. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of areas that we can have a look at. I will show you suburb really quickly. So we'll aggregate this by an administrative boundary. We'll make that the suburb, and we'll hit load report. And as we will see, this right here will change. So instead of giving us totals just for the entire centre, we've now got totals. I'm just making that a little bigger so we can see. We've now got the totals split up by suburb. So here are our suburbs here. Okay. So the other things that we can do with this, I'm just going to change this back so I can show you the demographics. So I'll put the catchment back to the whole centre, and I'll show you some of the demographics. And this is where we start getting into the idea of telling stories with data. And this is the kind of report where we can tell some pretty interesting stories with this. I do want to let you know that this is all dummy data that we're looking at today, so we're not really telling any actual stories. None of this is real. This is all just fake data. I just wanted you to keep that in mind before we have a look at this, just because, yeah, you may not want to look into these particular demographics that I'm about to show you yourself. This may be something that's of interest to you. You may want to tell other stories with your data. If you want help figuring out how to tell stories with data, we can help you do that. But I'll just give you a bit of a demonstration on what I mean right now. So I've got a couple of these for you. So I'm going to change Indigenous status from any to yes. So we're only looking for clients with an ATSI status set to yes. So these are only our Indigenous clients, and we're going to set excuse me, out of regional and remote clients, also to yes, and then we'll load the report again, and we'll see what this data looks like. We'll wait for that to load, and when it does, I'll make the screen bigger again, and we're going to be doing that a lot today. Okay, so if we have a look, okay, so now we've got 2 total clients. So these are clients who have the ATSI status set to yes and the RRR status also set to yes. So the interesting thing about this is that if we come across and have a look at the RRR status, we see that both of these clients are in regional, remote, or rural areas. So the kind of story that we might be telling with this data set that we have is that all of our Indigenous clients may be living in remote communities, which may be telling us that maybe we need to be delivering more services to remote communities. Maybe we need to be thinking about how we do that. Maybe something around the idea of transport, something like that. These are the kinds of stories that we can tell with this kind of data. I'm just going to set that one back. What was the other one I had? I think it's homelessness indicator, and I want age group 0 to 17. So we'll set up those and hit load report. And so this is going to be telling us a completely different kind of story. And as you can see, I'll come back to what I'm just about to say now a bit later. So I'll show you this data. Again, we've got 2 clients. So these are clients who are in this age bracket 0 to 17. As you can see, the rest of our age brackets are 0. And what was the other thing I set? Homelessness indicator. If we have a look, the homelessness indicator is also 2. So we're seeing that all of our clients who are between the ages of 0 and 17 are all homeless. So that could be an interesting piece of data that we could have a look at, and we could tell some pretty interesting stories with that piece of data, potentially telling us that maybe there needs to be more resources put towards youth services, and in particular in housing. Okay, so there's a couple of examples of the kinds of stories you can tell with this sort of data. And what I was going to say just before is that if we have a look at these demographics, we've got a lot of stuff in here. Gender, age group, financial disadvantage, income level, it just goes down and down and down. We've got a whole bunch of different demographics in here, and you can mix these up in any kinds of configurations that you like, which means that there's really not an endless, but a really large number of stories that we can tell just with this one report, or the data that comes from this one report. There was one more thing I did want to go over. Just give me a moment. One of the other things I will say is that these numbers are obviously very low. Again, this is just dummy data. We don't enter a lot of clients and services into our instance of class at CLCs Australia. We pretty much only use ours for testing and training purposes. So once you start looking at your own data and you start getting numbers in the hundreds, that's much more compelling sort of data. If you took this kind of data with 2 clients to anyone, I don't think anyone will be very interested in it, but the kinds of numbers that you will get will be much more interesting. The other one I wanted to mention is something that has been in the news a bit recently, which is again, it's age range. It's more to do with elderly people, and then it was homelessness status, I think, or DV status, something like that. Have been hearing a lot about that, so that's kind of the kind of data you can get from these reports, and this is the kind of data that can make interesting stories. Okay. So that's pretty much the basics of the C03 report. If anyone has any questions on that, I'm happy to field them. Otherwise, I might move on to the service report that we have.
No questions here, Samuel. I can only assume that you're killing it and you're getting it 100% spot on for everyone.
Thank you very much, James. Okay, so let's move on to the report that we have for services. As you can see up here, this is services for individuals. So it's counting services. Okay, so once we load up this report, we get pretty much exactly the same kind of configuration. We've got the filter panel and the report will load in the middle here. So just let me go ahead and just really quickly set this up just with pretty much exactly the same stuff. And we'll load the report and we'll have a look at the data that we get from this report. And there's a few sorts of things we can talk about with this report as well. Once the document actually loads. Okay, there we go. All right, so here's our S01 services for individuals count. Again, the same date range, same funding categories, and all the same other bits there, which aren't very interesting. These are the bits that are interesting. The clients. So we get the total number of clients, our new clients, repeat clients, and existing clients. And we do get a lot of people saying these numbers don't often match. Just give me a moment, sorry. Yeah, okay. All right, so again, your total clients is going to be the total number of unique clients. So the new clients are clients who had their first service at your center through this date range. Repeat clients, clients who had a service prior to this date range. Existing clients. So existing clients are clients who also had services through. Actually, James, would you mind giving some better definitions on these here?
Sure. So Samuel's pretty much spot on for it. You know, total number of clients is a client who's received a proper service in the period. So, you know, not just informations and referrals, but we're talking actual services like legal advice, and that's unique clients. So if they received multiple services, they're just counted once. All of these are unique clients, just to specify. New clients is they received their first service within the reporting period. So for this report, it's set over 2 days. No, it's set over a year. So within that year, they received their first service. A repeat client essentially says they have received services before, but in this period, they received another service. And an existing client, that's the tricky one. That means they started an ongoing service before this report, and it didn't finish until during this period, or maybe even it hasn't finished yet. So that could be a court tribunal representation or something like that. Maybe another representation that started maybe even 2-3 years ago and is still ongoing because it's a complicated matter. They're going to turn up in this report as an existing client. And the reason that these numbers don't add up, they don't match, they don't check out, is because these aren't meant to be totally unique of each other. It is actually possible that someone can be an existing client and a repeat client at the same time, for example. These don't necessarily have to be, they don't have to only fall in one category. So treat each of these numbers by themselves.
James, and one of the important ones here is your new clients. That's one of the more interesting numbers that you will find in this report. So these, the way that this is set up, the way it is, these are agreed upon definitions, agreed upon by the AGD, as far as I know. We're not actually that happy with them, but this is what we've got. Okay, so if we move on, we move across to our service types, and this will give us breakdowns for the numbers of services that we've done. Our informations, our referrals, our advices, and all the other different service types. including our representation services. Just scroll across, yeah, all of our representation services, so we get numbers for those. Now, I'll bring this up now. I don't know if I will get time to come back to this later. I'll do it now. Sometimes some people ask us why these reports have decimals. As you can see, this one does not. Sometimes you will see decimals in some of these reports. The way that happens is that that happens for your referral services, and the reason for it is that it comes down to the problem types. So if you enter 2 problem types on a service, each of those will be counted as 0.5 of a service, I believe is how it works. If you enter 3 problem types, they'll each be counted as a third of a service, but it all adds up to a whole number. So that's the reason why you get decimals, but your services are all counted in there. So as you can see over here, we don't get the demographics in this report. That's because this is for services, not clients, and we don't have those sorts of demographics on our services. Those are our client demographics. You can aggregate this by your different administrative boundary types, just like you can with the C03 report. And there they are. Okay, so that's the S01 report, the services report. If there are any questions on that, I'm happy to field those. Otherwise, I might move on to the drill down reports.
Nope, nothing at the moment.
Great. Okay, thanks, James. All right, so just give me a moment while I'm trying to find the report I want. It is this one, in 03.1. Okay. Okay, so this looks a little bit different. So this is what's called a drill down report. Let me just go back to the list of reports and we can have a look at this. So if we go, I'm just scrolling back to the top of the list of reports. In this column here, we've got the format column, and these are all the standard reports. Once we scroll down a bit, we find we get into the drill down reports. Okay, so this is a drill down report, and this is what they look like. So they're slightly different, but the one thing that this report has in common with the other 2 that we've seen today already is the filter panel. So let me go ahead and just fill that in again really quickly. One more time, although I will probably have to do this again later on, but never mind that. I will just load this report, and that will load our data for us. So what happens here is that this report has been preset with the fields that we want in this report. So what this report is doing is it's giving us a count of the number of services, and it's breaking those services up into law type, and then it's breaking them up into problem types and service types. So if we scroll down, we can see all the different law types, civil law, etc. And inside the civil law, we then see all the problem types. So if we see this is civil law and we have a look at credit and debt, it seems that we did one court/tribunal representation service within that date range. Okay, so here's all the data we get. So this looks a little bit messy. There's a lot of data in there. There's a lot of zeros in there. So there are a couple of ways to clean up these drill down reports. And also I will let you know now that the drill down reports are quite similar to the DIY reports, which we'll be looking at next, in that they have this same sort of configuration, but the drill down reports don't have as much functionality as the DIY reports, but I will get back to that in a minute. A piece of functionality that is common between the drill down reports and the DIY reports are these 2 little buttons here. So we've got this one, which is an arrow. That's an ordering icon or button for ordering. I'll just demonstrate that for you right now. If I click on that, we have the C at the top there. Now we have the W's at the top. So that's just ordered those in reverse alphabetical order now. And the other button that we have there is this little triangle on a stick, which is a funnel. So that's our filtering button. So if you click that button, excuse me, what this allows us to do is to select the things that we want and the things that we don't want. So we might be looking at this report. Just as an example, we may be looking at this report just to see how much work we're doing in family law. So we can do that and remove everything else so that we don't have all of that other data in the way. So if we click this Show All button, that will unselect everything. We can then tick family law. So now we've got only that one selected, hit OK. All of those other law types are now gone. And this is the length and breadth of our report now, which is much cleaner. And we have just our data for the family law. We can also filter other fields to clean it up even further if we wanted to. Say we wanted to find data, for example, on family law in, I don't know what I've got some numbers for, child support. Let's have a look for child support, tick that. And we can have a look at just that data if that is what we want, and then you could filter the service type as well to whatever it is that you're particularly looking for, and there's our data right there for us. So the other thing, the other piece of functionality that we have with these drill down reports is that we can actually remove these fields if we want to. So I will show you now the field list. So if you come over to the top right here and see this button, Customize, we're not looking at any of the drop-down options for that button there. We're actually going to click on Customize itself. That opens the pivot grid field list. I'll show you the other way to open that, just so that you have both options. There's two ways to do it, and I'll show you both ways to open the list. You can right click, this is a right click, anywhere up the top here, pretty much anywhere there. You can right click there, you get this list of 3 items, and the middle one is Show Field List. If you click on that, there's that same field list. Okay, so what we can do with this is we can remove one of these fields. I wouldn't recommend removing the number of services because that's pretty much what we're looking for. If we weren't interested in the problem types, we could pick up that field, and this is how the field list works. You do a drag and drop. You pick up whatever you want, you drag it to where you want it, and you drop it, and that has now removed that field for us. It's put it in the list, taken it out of the report. I'll just filter this so that we, never mind that, so that we can remove that if that's what we want to do. So that's one of the pieces of functionality that we also have with the drill down reports. Okay. So another piece of functionality that we have with these reports is exporting. So I will show you that now. So up the top here, we have the option to save these reports. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We can expand and collapse. I don't really use these buttons. You're welcome to if you like. Customize kind of isn't really going to help us with these reports. You can click refresh if you've made a change to the date range or something. That might refresh your data. You can always just hit load report though. You can close your report. We've got this button here, the export. This is the one that we want. So we've got a couple of options here, export to Excel and export to CSV. We recommend exporting to CSV. Personally, I recommend testing both of them. I usually export to CSV, but there are sometimes some instances where the data doesn't format in Excel very well when you export to CSV. If that's the case, I'll try to export it to Excel and see how that formats, but usually it's actually the other way around. If you export to Excel, oftentimes the formatting of the data, excuse me, doesn't look very nice in Excel. So I usually export to CSV. all we have to do is click that button there. That will download this report to your local machine, and you can open that and have a look at your data in Excel. I do know that this is not the official Microsoft Excel, but ignore that. This is just as good, or pretty close to anyway. Never mind that. Anyway, here is the report that we just ran, that we've exported, and we can have a look at the data in Excel and then play around with the data in Excel using formulas and things if we want to do that. Okay, so that's kind of exporting. That's pretty much kind of it for the drill down reports. There are a few of them. That's the basics of how they work. Does anyone have any questions on that?
No questions here, Samuel.
Thanks, James. Okay. In that case, I'm going to move on to the DIY reports. I'll skip over, I will mention this. Down the bottom, you see the number of reports that you have available to you, and there may be a couple of pages. I'll bring this up because people occasionally do forget. There might be a couple of pages of reports there. You just need to click over to the second page of reports. If you're looking for one and you can't find one, it may be on that second page of reports for you. And on this second page, this is where a lot of, pretty much most of our DIY reports live, as well as some reports that have been saved, and we'll go over that a little bit later as well. Okay. So our DIY reports also have a naming convention. So the reports are named with where the fields come from. So which screen in class the fields come from. So this one at the top is DIY client and additional detail. So all the fields on the client screen are available in this report. And all of the fields in the additional details screen are also available in this report. So this is a DIY project service action. So this is only for community projects data. So for project services, all of those fields, and for the actions in project services, all of the fields on that page are available in that report. So that's the naming convention for the DIY reports. Having said that, there is one report in here that you will use if you want to use DIY reports. There's one of these that you will use 99% of the time. I very occasionally need to use one of these other reports, something like DIY service actions. I have used occasionally. I'm just trying to have a look. We've got a whole bunch of them, things that give you information about documents, community projects, all sorts of things. As I said, there's one report that is used 99% of the time when it comes to DIY reports, and it's this one, DIY service client. So this gives us all of the fields on the service screen and all of the fields on the client screen. So we'll go and have a look at this report. And as soon as we open this, we see that there's a couple of things which are a little bit different in here. We don't have any fields filled out for us. We have to do that ourselves in the DIY reports, but I will show you how to do that and how to make it make sense for you. But I'll come back to that. Again, we've got the filter panel. We've seen the start date and end date. I'll just do this really quickly. As a matter of fact, I've just realized I'm not going to do that because we have something else in the DIY reports, which we don't have in the standard and drill down reports, which is a rolling date range. So this is available to us. It may work for you, it may not. If you want something for a specific date range, then the rolling date range may not work for you. Something you can use this if you want to say previous X days before. Okay, so that would be the previous days before today. Yep. So say, what's today, Tuesday? Say we wanted all the data from everything from last week plus yesterday. You can maybe put an 8 in there. I think that will give you X days before today, which will be all of last week and yesterday. If you wanted to run a report on a Monday morning and put a 7 in there, that would give you all of the data from the previous week. So you can also do that with calendar weeks before this week, calendar months before this month. You can set it up for this calendar month, the calendar week. You can have the previous quarter, this calendar year. You can have this financial year so far. One of the ones I often use, which I'm going to select right now, is last 12 months to date. You may have noticed I've been using the last 12 months to date in the other reports. I'm just trying to find a nice set of data, just a nice set of numbers to demonstrate to you. So I'm just going with the last 12 months for today. Okay, and as you can see, that's already filled in our date range for us automatically. Excuse me. Okay, so the next thing to look at is the additional reporting dates, and this is where it starts getting a little bit more complex. These DIY reports are they are the most complex of the reports. They're also the most powerful of the reports. It's very common that people want data sets that can't be gotten from a standard report or even a drill down report. If that's the case, a DIY report is your last port of call, and these DIY reports can get almost everything. There are a few limitations, one of them being that you can only get data from 2 screens, this one being the server screen and the client screen. If you want data from 3 separate screens, that's not really possible within one of these reports. You could possibly get that kind of data set if you ran 2 reports and then amalgamated your data in Excel or something like that. Anyway, these DIY reports are the most powerful way to run reports we have in class, and can get you most of the data that you're looking for. Okay, so the additional reporting dates, going back to this. So we usually have this set to the service date completed service, because going back to what I was saying before, most of our funders only want data for completed services or delivered services that we've delivered. So that's the option there that's already filled in when we open this report, but we can change that to the service open date. So any services that were opened within this date range will be the services that will be in this data set. The service close dates are any services with a close date that falls within that date range. Those are the services that will be counted in this data set, and all open ongoing services. So I believe that's services that have it is the open date that is, actually it could be any open date, so long as the close date is not within this date range, or there's no close date yet. I'm just going to set that back to this standard one, just for demonstration purposes, not for any real reason, to be honest. Again, our funding categories, I'm just going to select them all. And once that loads, we'll see a couple more buttons down here. Include custom fields. You only need that if you're putting custom fields into your report. I will show you how that works, and show all dates. So sometimes these DIY reports, they'll actually drop some data. So if the data for a specific date is not applicable, or it's a 0, the report might choose not to show it. If you want to see all of those zeros for absolutely everything, you can just click show all dates and hit load report, and you will get that. Okay, so moving on to the kinds of data we can get with these kinds of reports. I've just realized that I probably should have put out calls for specific examples that people would like to see today. If there's any kinds of reports that you would like me to make, and you would like to see how to make, let me know and I'll make them. Otherwise, I might start with something that's pretty common. One of the common questions we get. And I'll start with how we get our fields into these areas here. It's the same as in the drill down reports. You can right click there to show the field list, or click on customize, and there's our field list. And the field list is movable. If you want to pick it up and move it around, yep, you actually probably will need to do that at some stage. I find myself doing it constantly. Another thing I also find myself constantly doing is making this box, this pop-up box, a little bit bigger by hovering over this bottom right. This is a little bit tricky. Once you see those arrows pop up, you can just drag that out, and then you can see what's in there. Another thing I will go over just quickly is a couple of different ways, just so you know both ways, of finding your fields within this list. What I'm doing right now is one of the ways to do it. You can simply scroll through to find the field you want. The other way to do that is to do a Control or Command F, and you just do a search. I'm just going to do a search for no of, I'll put in a C there, and this has highlighted my field, number of client. Okay, so the first of these things here I'm going to talk about is the data items, drop data items here. I'll come back to the filter fields. I'll come back to that later. The data items is the more interesting of those two areas, and pretty much one of the most interesting areas of these DIY reports. This area, drop data items here, will only take two fields, number of client and number of service. One of the interesting things about this as well is that you can actually put both of them in there. Now, oftentimes you will want to run a report where you're not looking for client counts or service counts, in which case you leave that area, drop data items here empty, and that will work for you. Now, we've got our row fields and our column fields, which is hiding behind the field list. Now, this is where these reports get interesting in that data looks different to everyone, really. And people perceive data differently. People understand data differently. So I usually set up these reports the way that makes sense to me. If we get a ticket to the help desk, I'll set up a report the way it makes sense to me. If someone else on the help desk was to jump on that ticket instead of me and they did it, it's entirely possible that they might set up that report the way that makes sense to them, which is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with setting up these reports the way that you want. There is a little thing here. I'm just going to drag some fields in so that we can see what happens. I'll drag in assigned to, because this is one of the questions we get asked a whole lot. Okay, so let me close the field list and let me close this find box, and I'm going to hit load report. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so now we see the list of people that can be assigned services in class. Here's me. Seems I have 12. I've entered 12 clients within this 12-month period, which is an average of about one a month, which I'm not particularly proud of, but no, this is all dummy data, never mind that, and 15 services. So this is one of the questions we get a lot. Can I see a list of services assigned to a particular solicitor, a particular administration worker, particular volunteer, something like that? Yes, you absolutely can. So this is giving us just the numbers of clients and services that have been assigned to each particular person. And again, we can filter these fields. Actually, I might skip that as we've already been through that. Excuse me. So I'm going to bring up the field list again to show you a little more detail of these reports. Just give me a moment while I'm just moving some stuff around on my screen. Okay. All right. The thing I want is the field I want is service ID. Okay, so if I was to drag that in there, that was a really good chance to show you exactly how this, works. I will do that again because I kind of glossed over that. So when you're dragging and dropping these fields, it can get a little bit tricky. It's not too hard. You drag them across. Usually we drag, you can drag them to wherever you want. If you want to drop that one into the middle of those two fields, you can do that. If you want to on the absolute left, you can do that. If you want on the right, you can do that. Once you see those two little arrows appear, the one that points up and the one that points down, you simply let go and that will drop that field in there for you. That's a really irrelevant field for this report that we're running right now, so I'm just going to remove it. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that people do ask for. Can I see who's been entering what services are assigned to which person? This is the way to do something like this. You could filter this down to just a single specific person. I'll use myself as the example in this instance. And then you can see all of these services that have been assigned to this particular person. Okay, the one thing I did want to mention on this is the way that you order these fields in the row fields. So it will group the data by the fields from the left to the right. So if I put the service ID to the left and the assigned to is now in the right. So this is now ordering the data by this field. It's giving us the service ID and then telling us who it's assigned to. And as we saw before, if you have it ordered the other way, it will give us all of the names of the people, the list of people they are assigned to, and then it will give us all of the service IDs for those particular people. I don't know if maybe I'll just try to demonstrate this really quickly. The reason I bring this up is that if you have large amounts of data in a report like this, it can get pretty messy if you have your fields ordered in a certain way. See, we've got all of our service IDs and these are listed numerically. So then they're not, so it's kind of a bit tricky to tell which services are assigned to which person. So this is just about ordering our data. If you want to find out the list of everything for each individual person, you have it assigned to at the left. So that's an example of the way that these fields, the way that these reports order the data. Okay, I will also show you this. Yes, James.
Look, if you're still going through the example, finish it off. But while you're still on this particular example of assigned to, we've had a couple of really good thorny questions come through as well that if we've got a minute, I might talk about. But go through your columns first and we'll look back around to it.
Okay, I will do the columns just really quickly and then you can jump on those questions. Okay, so this again is about kind of ordering our data. I'll move this field into the columns. So this might make sense to you, it might not. We'll wait for it to load and have a look at what it looks like. So as we can see, this orders the data. This is pretty messy. I wouldn't recommend setting up a report like this. What I'm going to do just really quickly, just to show you, I'm going to remove number of services and number of clients from the data items area to see what this report looks like when we have the assigned to in the rows and the service ID in the columns. And so we get a report that looks like this. And again, I'm not getting anything out of that. That's not making much sense to me at all. So just so you know, it's not super often that we would well, I can't speak for everyone, but it's not super common that I personally put anything into the column fields. The kinds of things that I use that for things like dates. So something like I'm going to scroll down to M for month. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try to show you what happens when you put something in the column fields. Close,
And
please.
you need a data item.
So yeah, that's right. I was just about to mention that actually, but thank you, James. If you had something in the data items like number of services or number of clients assigned to, this could give you a report where you're getting the number of services assigned to an individual. Say you didn't have the service ID there. You could have it by month and it would tell you the number of services that were assigned to this individual for that's October last year, November, December, January, February, and so on. So that's a bit of a rundown, though a brief one on the columns and the way we can order the data. Do you want to get going on your questions now, James?
Yeah, sure. So we had a really, really thorny question that has actually come up reasonably often on the help desk as well. Looking for a report showing advice or something still open at a certain date assigned to solicitors. What we've got at the moment with this example here that Samuel's put together, we talk about, you know, these are the services assigned to a certain person or something like that. But what we've actually done, if you look at the additional reporting dates on the side, Samuel set it to service date completed service. So the most accurate way to refer to this particular report would be these are the services that were completed by a person in the period. If we wanted to look at the services assigned to a person within the period, we'd want to change it to service open date. Samuel, if you can hit service open date and reload that report. We'd then need to go through the work of actually filtering out ones that, you know, were open, you know, within this period of time, and making sure that we get rid of everything that was closed before the point of time we're looking at or something like that. Or Samuel, if you can change the additional reporting date over to open ongoing services down the bottom, that's going to look at absolutely everything that's closed. So this is really good for a snapshot of right here, right now, today, what you have in your system that's open. But part of the question I got asked was about advices and tasks and things like that. Now, the Data Standards Manual treats advices and tasks as discrete services, meaning as soon as they're in the system, that's it, they're closed, they're delivered, it's done. Of course, when you're actually delivering a legal advice or something like that, it doesn't work quite that neatly, and there are times where legal advice might be a lot more complicated. You have ongoing work, something like that, you need to follow up. In a situation where you need to find out, you know, let's say you don't consider a legal advice completed by your center until a follow-up email is sent, for example. If you need to find all of your open legal advices, because they're considered discrete by the reporting, you need to work out how your center determines whether they're open or closed. For some centers, that's going to be through the service status field. So you're going to need to filter out everything that's closed. Samuel's just bringing up service status at the moment. There it is, service status. And probably look for, we'll need the reporting date of open date, not all open ongoing services, because that only looks at ongoing services, not legal advices and legal tasks. But look, this is a bit of a start to get you down the path. I think I just wanted to walk you through a little bit of this so you understand the reason we don't give you this as a default question, as a default example, is because those service types considered by the system can't be unfinished. They're finished as soon as they're in the system. So if you and your center's logic has a way of noting whether they're open or closed, we need to tailor this report to exactly how your center does it. So we can absolutely do it. We just need to talk to you and your center about how it is you look at your services, because it's going to be different for everyone. That's it from me, Samuel.
Much, James. I'm really glad you went through that, because that gave me a couple of reminders of other things that I need to go through. So, all right, one of the things we haven't spoken about yet is the custom fields. I'm just going to take a couple of these out just to make this report look a bit nicer. Okay, so part of class is customization. We're able to customize class to work the way our center likes. And part of that is adding custom fields. So if you do have custom fields in class, you can get your data from those custom fields in these DIY reports. So in the field list, if we scroll down, we come down to the C section, and we see the CF underscore and all of these different fields here. So these are all your custom fields right here. Now, I think there's a kind of a funny one here that I'm just looking for. It might be down in here somewhere. If I don't find it, I will just choose a random one to demonstrate custom fields. So I think as we were going through this before, what we saw was that, there it is there. Once you drop these fields into the report should actually update the data, please. As you can see, we've got nothing in here, absolutely nothing at all. And going back to what I was saying before, we've got this include custom fields box right there. Excuse me. So the reason we've got that is that the reports work much faster without having to check all the data for all the custom fields. So when you load up one of these reports, it won't check any of the custom fields that you've set up. So if you do want data from your custom fields, you just need to come over, tick that checkbox, hit load report, and that will bring your data in for you. And I'm hoping there's going to be something in there. Yep, there you can see my favorite color apparently is red. That's not actually true, but never mind that. So that's custom fields. So a couple more things to go through. And we're getting pretty close to the end of the session. We can open it up to questions pretty soon. I will just go through something else with you, which is saving and sharing. So once you set up a report, what you can do is save this report. You simply click save as, you give this report a name, and then when you want to check this exact same data set for a different date range, so you want to check it once a week, once a month, whatever it may be, you can save the report, come back to that saved report, and get your data for your new date range. You simply load up the save as little thing that we have here, give it a name. I'm just going to name this so I remember to actually get rid of this so it's not clogging up our list of reports later. You can give it a description if you want. Save changes. James, you may be able to confirm this. I believe what happens if you do that is that if you tick that checkbox, that will update the date ranges for you automatically. Is that correct?
No, the save changes means that any changes you make to your new saved report, it just saves automatically. I recommend not ticking it just so that you can make changes, make mistakes absolutely wildly, realize you've made a mistake and just close out of it without having to worry about whether or not it's saved.
Thank you for that, James. I had that completely wrong, but never mind that. Okay. Once you've got a name in there, you can simply hit save and close. We then have to wait around for a little while. This is just loading. It's still loading. It will actually close this report and then open it for us again, or again, that was wrong. it doesn't actually close the report. We've got that report there, and then it's opened a new copy for us. As you can see, these buttons here are different. This is the old one I was working on. I saved this one, and this is the new one. And we can just, let me close this one. Okay, as we can see, these buttons here are a little bit different now, and the name of the report here is different as well. If we will get to go back to our list of reports, we will be able to find this new report in there. I could demonstrate that, but I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So the other buttons we get here are edit. You can save it again, give it a whole new name if you like. Sharing is the the button I want to go through with you. So you can create a DIY report, you can save it for yourself, and then you can share it with other people at your center. And you can do that in a couple of different ways. You can share it with everyone who has a particular role. So say it's everyone with class admin advanced, or maybe everyone with just class admin, something like that. You could then give them certain levels of control over the report as well. If you want people to be able to not only look at the report, but make changes to it, resave a copy for themselves, do things like that, you would give it to them as unlocked editable. You can give it to them as unlocked save as, so they can save a copy for themselves. You can give it to them locked, but they can change the filters, or you can give it to them locked so they can see it, but they can't make any changes to it. The other way to share a report that you have saved is to share it with specific people. So over in this right column, we've got users, and you can share any of these reports with any of the users that you want. Here's an old account of mine that I don't use anymore. That's absolutely pointless sharing this report with that account, but I'm going to do it anyway. So once you've got that set up with whoever you want to give access to these reports to, then you can just hit save and close, and those accounts will have access to those reports. I might just go back and demonstrate this just quickly while I'm at it. Wait for that to load. We'll just refresh this list. And I believe the name I gave that report was delete this, and here it is now in our list of reports. So if you do create a DIY report and save it, and then maybe share it with people and they want to know where to find it, it's pretty simple. You just come to, sorry, I'm just trying to move a couple of things around on my screen. Okay, reports and accountability, hit reports, you get your list of reports, and the report that you save and share, or the reports that you save and share, will be listed in there. Okay, I think that about covers it for pretty much the basics of DIY reports and how they're used. Are there any other questions that we've had come through? Any other requests for reports that I could show you?
Nothing that I haven't been able to answer myself
Okay.
at the moment. Might have a couple people still typing.
Okay. Is there anything that I've missed that you'd like to talk about, James?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well. I think it's worth noting that with DIY reports, you can report on absolutely any field within class. You can do absolutely anything with DIY reports. It's not always the simplest thing in the world, but it can be done. Feel free to rely on us, the help desk, as much as you need to for any of that. We're always happy to be told by you, please just put this report together, or we're happy to be told, hey, I want this report. Can you show me how to do it? We can walk through it. If you ever give something like this a try yourself, you get halfway down, you just think this is not working for me. I'm running into walls left, right, and center. Don't just delete it. Actually save that one and maybe share it with the help desk people, because it's always more helpful for us to talk over the things you got right and wrong, because that's just going to let you know what to do and not do in the future. But look, at the end of the day, the one piece of advice I can give you is, particularly when you're starting out, don't try to make a DIY report that answers 10 different questions. Try and keep it really, really simple and easy, and just make a DIY report that answers the question that you're currently asking. If you're looking to do it for some really tricky reporting for a funding body and they need 10 different questions asked, it's going to be a lot easier if you make yourself 10 different saved reports and, make up your own numbering conventions. We've got CO 1, 2, and 3. Make something for yourself to keep it really simple. Those are my tips.
James, I completely agree. We are only more than happy to help on the help desk with any DIY reports or any questions you might have about DIY reports or any reports at all, really. We get them regularly, so please don't hesitate to ask. I'm fairly sure I helped someone with a DIY report yesterday. I can't quite remember, but I'm almost certain I helped someone with one of them last week sometime, so we do get them pretty regularly. Okay, so I'll end by showing you how to get help from the help desk. This is probably something you've been over before, but I will just show you quickly. Up here, we've got the little circle with a question mark. That's the help button. If you click on that, that comes through to our class documentation. And this is where you can get help from the help desk. So this is our new help desk portal. If you load that up, that will give you the service desk portal where, God, it takes a while to load. Apologies for that. You can ask your questions to us there. If that doesn't work for you, which it may not, you can send us an email. In fact, I believe you need to have sent us at least one email to be able to use the portal. This is the email address for the help desk. That's it right there, icthelp@clcs.org.au. Fire off an email to that. That will land on our help desk, and we will reply to you when we can. Though, if you like, you can always use the help desk portal. You come through to here, you choose something from this left column. Seeing as we're talking about class, it's most likely going to be class. If it's a general sort of question, some feedback or a clarification you might need, you might want to choose general. We support a number of other systems on this help desk as well. If you've got a question about class, you might click class, and then maybe something like reporting request, help running reports or refining your results, and ask us your questions there. And we are more than happy to help you with any of your reporting questions. Okay, it looks like we're running just a few minutes early today, which is always nice.
Samuel.
Yes, James.
While we're running a few minutes early, I've had a couple more questions come in towards the last little bit of it. I have a couple of requests here for some, pretty specific and pretty complex reports. If I'm not addressing your one specifically now, take it as an indication that you should absolutely be getting in touch with the help desk because it's a particularly complicated one. That email, was that IC Phelp, Sam? Was that the IC Phelp at, anyway, I can't see it as anything
correct.
else. So there's some tricky ones here. Please ask us to help out on the help desk because we can set this up specifically for you. And a lot of these aren't going to be exactly the same for everyone. So we want to make sure we get it totally right. One really good one, Sam, we have here is for last financial year. And I'm actually going to expand on it. I'm going to make it a little bit trickier. We want to compare last financial year to this financial year, the percent of clients who have experienced domestic violence.
Oh, that's a good one.
If I can be so bold as to tell people that they don't need to hang around, we're not going to be doing anything after this example, are we, Sam?
No, I was going to go over the webinars. We have a series of webinars coming up. If you're interested in some of our webinars like these, we have information on the Community Legal Centre's Queensland State Conference. Here's a webinar on Indigenised HR and recruitment you can come to our website, which is clcs.org.au, and that is under emergence, and there's the list of webinars there. That was about the last thing I was going to speak about today. So we might jump into this tricky report, and others can drop off if they choose to.
Excellent. Okay, so Samuel, I might make a few recommendations if you're willing to make the adjustments for me. If you can get rid of those fields you've currently got in there. So I believe what we can actually do is, Samuel was showing earlier that we could do, you know, month or something like that in the system to essentially say, you know, from this month to this month, these are the sorts of things that we did. I do believe that financial year is one of those options. Samuel, can you have a search for that one? Financial year, excellent. Can you drag that into columns for me, please? Because I agree. I'm totally on board with you. I'm not a big columns person myself. I tend to put everything in rows, but you know, every now and then it's going to come in handy. Let's change the additional reporting dates over to service open date. Let's say, you know, any question we ask, you got to ask yourself, do you want all of the services completed within the period, which is what most funding agreements tend to ask for, or do you just want absolutely everyone regardless? And for this one, I'm just going to say we're looking at absolutely everyone. We'll need to change the rolling date range because we're not looking at last 12 months. Can you open it up to a date range, Samuel? And let's chuck in, I don't know, let's say the 1st of July 2015. We're going all the way back here through to 30th of June 2020. Cool. All right, and let's hit that load report. Can we chuck in the number of services field as a data item? And let's grab family violence indicator. Now, this is where we're actually getting really tricky with some of these things, and it doesn't always feel like it's getting tricky, but this is a really fiddly one. Family violence or domestic violence, depending on your regional choice, because it does seem to vary state to state, is actually a really difficult one for us to measure because we do have the family violence indicator on services, and that's the one we tend to default to. However, we can actually get some other information from problem types. A lot of the problem types specifically reference family and domestic violence. I tend to rely on family violence indicator because if family violence, family and domestic violence is present in the individual circumstances, that might not actually be relevant to the legal or non-legal assistance that they're requesting. So you might say, yes, family violence indicator, family violence was present for this service, but it's not actually relevant in terms of problem types. So just to flag, I rely on family violence indicator, but it's worth considering there are other ways that this is measured as well. Samuel, can we drag family violence indicator down into the row fields? And we might be having an issue because we might just not have enough data in this section. There we go, now we got some data. And what that's telling us is for the various responses, you know, in this financial year to the next financial year to the next, we had this many at risk, that many no, that many not applicable. That top row there, the blank one, that's to say these services, it was left completely blank on. It is a mandatory field for most service types, so it's probably only informations and referrals that it's blank on there. But, you know, just worth knowing that that's there. Samuel, if you can click on that show all dates box down in the left and reload that report, what that's going to do is it's going to say, well, you know, you actually ran this report from 2015-16 financial year. We didn't include it initially because it's just a bunch of zeros and it's not useful information to have that bunch of zeros. But, you know, sometimes you might want to say, well, I don't care if it's a zero, just tell me that it's a zero. So if you click show all dates, it's going to include that in there as well. Now this got us 95% of the way. The trick is you're not asking about the individual responses or anything like that. You're saying, you know, domestic violence of 2018-19. So there's a few tricky bits here. First of all, from the official counting rules, officially how the Attorney General Department likes their data and most funding bodies do, at risk technically counts as yes. If you're looking for number of individuals affected by family violence, you actually include at risk. So you don't just take the, you know, if I'm looking at 18-19, you don't just take the 45 under yes, you've got to add your 24 at risk to that one as well. Now, the one thing that we can't do within, I say the one thing as if it's the only thing we can't do, but one of the things we can't do within a DIY report is actually make it give us percentages. So, oh, thank you, Samuel. That's a very sensible way of handling it. There we go. Samuel's filtered out all of the other responses. So now we've only got yes and at risk. So if we're looking at the various numbers here and we actually wanted to get percentages and look how that goes, unfortunately at this point we would have to export it out into Excel. As Samuel was saying earlier, I don't like to export things out as the Excel document. It's just not very nice. The formatting is weird. I have my own issues with it. I export everything out as a CSV, which is a file that you open in Excel anyway. So no big deal. I don't want to assume any level of competency. You know, there could be people on here who don't know anything about percentages. So just to give you a really quick example, Samuel, are you able to export this one out as a CSV? And actually, Samuel, what we'll need to do is we'll need to include all of those other options as well, not just the yes and at risk, because we're looking at a percentage. So we've got to know everyone else included in this as well. Very aware that I'm running real on the line here. We're hitting 4 p.m. pretty much on the dot. So look, anyone who does need to drop off, it's okay. You might know where I'm going with this. I don't think I'm going to be giving you any big insights. This is just one final example to really finish off the clock. All right. And so what we might do here is in cell D10, for example, Samuel, I'm assuming this works the same as Office. If I give you a little formula to put in,
yeah, it should.
I would go, excellent. I'd go equals, and sum of cell D4 and D8.
You think something like that will work?
Yep, divided by D9 times 100. And if you hit enter on that one, that there, let me make sure that looks approximately right. 11 out of 23. Maybe not quite as right as I would like. But you know, that's what we need to do to get a percentage at the end of the day, which is to say, you know, take the number of yes values, divide it by the total, and of course multiply it by 100. If you need any assistance with that in any kind of more detail, I know that not everyone got involved in the legal system to spend all day looking at spreadsheets and playing with math. Unfortunately, that is the way that my brain works and the way a lot of the help desk people's brain works. So if you need any assistance with something like that, just get in touch and we can run you through it with, you know, a little bit more detail, a little bit more help, and hopefully that answers your question.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that, James. That used up the last of our time really well. And we are right on. No, we've just ticked over to 4:01. All right. In that case, we might wrap up this session. A big thank you from everyone at CLCs Australia for being on our class help desk training session today. Excuse me. Yeah. Big thanks to everyone. Personally, I want to send out a big thanks to Alex Aridi and particularly James Oakerby. And we hope that everyone has a very nice afternoon. So thanks and bye from all of us at CLCs Australia.